Hi guys, this is Ali and welcome back to Cybermergy. We're gonna keep the tradition of starting our lecture with the Batman quote. So this time there's nothing to fear but fear itself. In our previous lecture we studied about security controls, security frameworks and best security practices. So those things are good as a good security measure, but they don't give you a general idea about how much you are exposed to modern day threats and risks. So one of the best way to find out about how much your security controls are effective and how much you are exposed and vulnerable to modern day attacks and threats is by having a pen test activity or by having a war game exercises. And one of the best ways is to split your personnel into three teams: red team and blue team, and the white team. So red team, it acts as an adversary or an attacker trying to penetrate the network or exploit the network as a rogue insider attacker. And the red team is also known as the tiger team, and this team could be consistent of in-house security staff or might be a third-party company or a consultant contracted to perform the role. And then the opposite of red team we have is the blue team. So they are the exact opposite of the red team, and these guys try to detect the activities of the red team, tries to find out the exploits of the red team, detects them and tries to stop them or prevent them. And then the white team, this team sets the parameter for the exercise and is authorized to call a halt if exercise gets out of hand or should no longer be continued for business reasons. The white team will determine objectives and success fail criteria for the red blue teams. The white team will also take responsibility for reporting the outcome of the exercises, diagnosing the lessons learned report, and making recommendations for the improvement of security controls. Another thing that being a security analyst or a security professional, you may get an opportunity to work in either of the three roles, red team or blue team or white team. But mind you that this certification CompTIA CySA Plus, it aims to prepare you for the skill set required in blue team, not in the red team. So for the red team skill set, you may want to check out CompTIA's Pentest exam, Pentest course or ECH course. Before you go and perform a pen test activity, there are certain rules that needs to be followed, and those rules are called rules of engagement. The first one we have is scope. So by scope we mean that what does this organization that is implementing a pen test activity wants to achieve from this activity. Is it a compliance pen testing activity or to check the effectiveness of security controls, or is it a general security awareness pen testing, and whether this pen test activity will it include any social engineering or not, and what kind of departments that will be involved in this pen test activity, and also whether this activity will involve any application testing or not. Will it have any kind of a custom exploits or not, or it will be only based on script kiddies attacks or not. So this is the scope of a pen test activity. Next we have is authorization. So before you go and start doing penetration, you must have a written agreement, written document from the organization that agrees that you can perform a pen test activity, and maybe you are performing a pen testing for a client, but that client is hosting some kind of a web application or a web server over a cloud provider. So you may also want to have a authorization from a cloud service provider as well, that because when you are performing a pen test activity or a cloud service provider, chances are that your activity may affect the server or other VMs over the cloud. So you also have a written permission from the cloud hosting service provider and also from your ISP, depending on the type of test you are performing. The next one we have is timing. So this is very important. The timing of a pen testing should not be open-ended. It should be a close-ended. And in this timing, it also comes that at what time of the day you will be performing the pen test activities. Will it be during the business hours, or will it be after the business hours when the traffic is low and when the rush, there is not much rush? Because chances are when you are performing a pen test activity in the daytime, it may affect the business and then the cost will be too high and the losses will be high. So you need to have a timeline for this pen test activity as well. The next one we have is exploitation, and there are different approaches to exploits. Like, will the pen test activity, will it be no-host barrel testing, in which the consultant will try to use any means to penetrate as far into the network as possible? He may not even stop after finding the vulnerability and try to exploit it for real. Or will it be use perimeter testing, in which you know that you have found out certain vulnerabilities, and after finding those vulnerabilities you stop there and not exploit the system for real. And then there is attack profile, in which you may need to determine how much information about the network you need to provide to the consultant. Will it be a black box or blind testing, in which the consultant is given no knowledge about the network or the code? And this is kind of similar, or it resembles the real world hacking. Or will it be a white box testing, in which the consultant is given complete access about the network, or given the access to review the code? Or will it be a gray box, in which the consultant is given certain information? Typically this would resemble the knowledge of a junior or non-IT staff to model particular types of insider threat. Next we have is communication, and the next one we have is communication. So whether there needs to be any communication between the red team or blue team or not, whether the blue team will be informed about the attacks of red team or not, it depends upon your organization policy. And some organizations prefer not to inform their blue team about the attacks of the red team, or they may not try to inform the red team that blue team will be trying to monitor and avoid or prevent their attacks. And the communication, the channel of, and there also needs to be decided that what will be the channel of communication, and the only thing that there needs to be sure is that the channel of communication must be secure. The next one is reporting. In reporting, as a pen tester, you may want to address certain staff of the organization, and keeping in mind that you will be addressing executives. So for that you may want to have a executive summary section in the pen testing report, because you may not want to go into the technical details. You just want to have a lessons learned report for the senior executives. You may also want to have a technical report for the procedures you followed and which tools you followed and what were the outcomes and results. And then you may want to have a lessons learned section in that report as well. So the reporting part, and this tries to address certain staff members of an organization, including the technical staff and executive staff of the organization. The last one for today is kill chain. Lockheed Martin wrote a white paper in which he tried to address the certain phases that an attacker follows for a successful attack, and those phases are as follows. The first one is planning and scoping. In the planning and scoping part, the attacker tries to have his motivations, that why he wants to attack a certain organization, and also after attacking a certain organization, what he needs to achieve. And also in the scoping planning part, he tries to gather tools and techniques that he will be using for this testing, for this penetrating activity. And after the planning, he goes into recon and discovery phase, in which he tries to find out find out about organization as much as possible. So in this phase, he may wants to go and find out how many web servers this organization is hosting, or what kind of servers this organization have, and what kind of OS this organization is running, and what kind of switches or routers this organization has. And he may get this details either by contacting the employees of that organization, or may want to go and check the LinkedIn profile of that organization, or maybe job postings in which it is written that they require a Linux administrator, or a Linux administrator who has work experience in, let's say, Red Hat 2.7. So he may try to get the information about the organization by going over LinkedIn or social networks, or may go and do some dumpster diving. So this is the recon or discovery phase. The next one we have is weaponization. The weaponization phase is, in simple words, is called gaining access. In this phase, the attacker utilizes an exploit to gain access, and the exploit or the vulnerability which he tries to exploit is called a pivot point. And this is important. You may be questioned about it in the exam, so try to remember what is an pivot point. It is an weakness through which an attacker exploits it and tries to gain access. So this weaponization phase consists of three parts. First one is exploit. The attacker may run a code on a target system to exploit a vulnerability and gain elevated privileges, and then he may want to have a command and control channel in which he establishes a covert channel to an external command and control, and then he may want to have some tool downloaded. He may install additional tools to pivot the progress of the attack. So after gaining access or weaponization phase, now the attacker will move on to the post-exploitation or maintaining access. He will try to do that by doing some lateral movements or by some privilege escalation, or he may want to install a backdoor that will grant him a permanent or a longer period of access. And then he will move on to the action on objective phase, in which he will try to achieve his purpose, like what was the reason he tried to penetrate the organization in the first place. And he may want to do some data exfiltration in that phase. And in the last, after accomplishing the goals, the attacker or a hacker, he will go into a retreat phase in which he will try to cover his tracks, and that is done either by deleting the logs. So he will delete any information that will get him detected, or that will let the forensics or analysts back to him. So he will try to cover his tracks in that phase. So here is a graphical picture of kill chain that I picked up from Google. So try to memorize it and some important tips you may be asked about in the exam, that what is the role and responsibility of red team and blue team. So try to remember that, and also try to remember the rules of engagement, and especially try to remember the timing should never be open-ended in the rules of engagement, and try to memorize the steps performed in the kill chain. And this is it for today. Thanks for joining in. If you have any question, please post in the comments below. I will try to answer those. And thank you and have a nice day. See you next time.